Well, it's 9:30. Good morning, everyone. We'll give it a couple minutes while everyone gets a chance to log on. Do you have any hidden talents, Jessica, that we can do to entertain everyone? No, it's okay.
Not that I can think of.
A way to put you on the spot, right? Well, all right. Looks like everyone's joining us. So welcome. We hope you're staying warm and dry on this blustery day. Let me introduce myself. I'm Leann, and this is the Family Resource Center and Child Development Workshop for Behavior Support. And this is my friend Jessica Cox.
Hi guys, I'm a school psychologist and I help support our preschool team here at the Child Development Building.
She's amazing. Oh, that didn't that didn't work like I thought it would. There we go. All right, so as we get started, I want to let you know we're in webinar format. And what that means is you can see us, we can't see you. So feel free to just be comfortable, go about your time, but your mics are muted, your cameras are off, and that'll help limit distractions. For this presentation, if you will please use that Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen, you'll see that right there. There should be a black bar on the bottom. And we're going to use that for the questions because that helps us keep track of them and make sure that by the end, we get all your questions answered. But we'd love you to introduce yourself in the chat. Tell us who you are, and if you're a parent or a professional, we'd love to meet you. This webinar is being recorded. It's going to be posted within the next couple days on the FRC YouTube channel. And you don't fret, you don't have to memorize all of this because you're going to get an email from me in the next day or so with the link to all the handouts, your certificate of attendance, and the link to the recording. If you need closed captioning, that is also available on the bottom of your bar there. So, oops, here we are again. So just, oh, hold on, I'm going through screens. There we go. So quickly, the Family Resource Center is a part of the Clovis Unified's early intervention team called City Kids. So I serve families birth to 3 that are in early start services. And then I also serve families 3 through ages 22 throughout the district, either families who have a child with special needs or if you have concerns about your child's development. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jessica.
Okay. All right. Thank you guys for joining us today. Today, what we really want our goals to be for this session is really just talking about how we can provide some solid social emotional support for our kiddos. And we know that they're at the age where they're learning how to deal with all of these big emotions and what can we do to help support them through that. We also want to talk about some just positive parenting tips and really what we can do to help structure up our time at home or any free time that can help reduce behavior. And we are going to touch a little bit on screen time. And then we'll also share with you at the end just some options for you that if you need any outside resources that we have available locally. Okay. So what is positive parenting, right? Positive parenting really is just using what we have in our toolbox and what we can control to help our kiddos throughout the day through a positive lens. It really focuses on acknowledging our kiddos and what they're doing. It doesn't mean that we don't ever have consequences or that we don't hold our kids accountable. It's just looking through it in a different lens of supporting them positively while being structured, setting boundaries, and letting them know, what our expectations are of them.
So does that mean we're not ever telling our children no?
That does not mean that we're not ever telling our children no. We are still telling them no, and really working through like the why behind that and what we're expecting them to do at that time.
Sure.
Yeah. Being positive with our kiddos is really being thoughtful about staying calm within ourselves. We'll talk about that later. We're also going to talk about like having that relationship and connecting with our child. We'll talk about what we expect them to be doing. So we call that the desired behavior, and making sure that we really are being intentional when we're teaching them what we're expecting them to be doing. And then also really just setting those clear limits and boundaries. It really does, our kids thrive when we have those boundaries and limits.
That's such a good point, Jessica, too, because something we call front loading, right? Is
Yes.
helping them understand what those expectations are. I think sometimes we as parents forget, especially when our kids are young,
Yeah.
right? That we actually have to maybe really clearly define what it is we're expecting, because it can be so easy to get into that mode of just sort of, always correcting afterwards.
Mhm.
But it can bring a lot of peace to the house, right?
Yes.
If we spend a little more time front loading them
Yes.
as to what we're expecting.
Yeah, and I think also sharing with them like why we're expecting that. Sometimes like I know for me, one of the hard things is like morning routine is getting everybody ready and out the door and getting, everyone to their school on time or getting to work on time. And so like if we have to leave earlier and I'm just saying we gotta leave earlier. Yeah, my boys are like, okay, mom, whatever. But if I really am intentional and say, let them know, I have a meeting at this time, this is why we have to leave, then it like makes it more personal for them too. Like, oh, well, we don't want to make mom, it's not for no reason. Like there is a reason behind that. So really, I think explaining that too and letting them know is super helpful.
Sure. And giving them those tools of okay, so this is what we're going to do to help get out of the door on time,
Yes.
right? Okay.
What we really want to be focusing on, especially if we're working through a behavior with our kid, is what in the situation can we control as adults. So like Leann was saying, we can control how much we prepare our child for that situation. We can control how we're acting through that situation. We can be in control of how we're interacting with our child at that time. And we can be in control of what strategies we want to use. So whether you have to set timers or use visuals, you are in control of your tone and the way that you are responding to your child, which I know can be hard. We are in control of, we want to take a deep breath before we answer, their question, or if they're pushing back and we're interacting with them, just knowing that those are all things that we have control over, even if it feels like our kiddo is not in control at that time.
Those are great points. So one of the things that we are in control of as the adults is screen time. And I include this little percentage of that screen time has gone up 52% since COVID. And so screen time is an impactful area of our kiddos' lives, but we do have control over that, right? And for the most part, I want to talk about what screen time is, and it sounds so obvious, right? Seen in front of the TV, but really, there's so much more to it. It's, not only the TV, but phones and tablets and computers, and even, you've got these electronic toys that, instead of, a child just sitting and playing, the toys doing the talking for them. And then you've got video games. The list is sort of endless, but you really do, it's more than just sitting in front of the TV, right? And what does the AAP recommend? So the American Association of Pediatrics recommend 18 months or younger, no screen time is still best. Now they do give that exception that live video chatting with family, that's different. I mean, you're still having that back and forth engagement, and nobody wants to say don't, screen time with grandma and grandpa, or,
Yeah, you can see the facial expressions and yeah.
Right. I mean, that's a great tool to stay engaged. 18 months to 2 years, limit screen time and avoid solo use. So, you're really trying to limit that. You're not just handing them the screen as a babysitter. You're when they are on a screen, you're choosing educational programming and you're watching it with your child, right? You're engaging, and you can have that back and forth, like, oh, look at Bluey. What's Bluey doing? Right. And having that conversation built into it. And so 2 to 5, they're saying limit it to about an hour a day. And then 6 and older, consistent limits. So I include a picture of my dog, Cash, because everybody is watching, right? They even have channels for our dogs now.
Yes.
Okay. and I will admit, Cash loves to watch TV. So, but honestly, it's amazing. But it adds up quick. It is everywhere. You can't even pump gas now,
without
right?
a video playing.
Yeah, video's playing. It's like no one has an attention span to be able to not be entertained 24/7.
Yeah.
Okay. So we get it. Believe me, we get it.
And I think one of the things too that we forget about as parents is, we, especially when we're out, like maybe shopping or grocery shopping, or if you're at a store, wanting our kids to be making sure they're staying in the cart and being quiet. And so, a lot of times our first go-to is to hand them the phone.
Right.
But forgetting that there is so much interaction for our kiddos that's missed by doing that. Just walking up and down the aisles or waiting in line. There's so many people that want to greet and talk to our little ones or say hi, or, just all the things that they can see. They can see, people walking by smiling, and it's just a good opportunity for them too, if you think about it, as building those social skills that we're removing from them if they're sitting there watching the screen. And those are really like, their get ready, like social skills to go into preschool and TK and kindergarten. So think about those times as learning opportunities too, and having them engage with other people and waiting and things like that.
Right. That patience that gets built up, right? Their tolerance to learn to sit and engage. So can too much tech be harmful? Well, studies have shown that that it can cause delays in development for gross motor skills, fine motor skills, communication. What are we here for today? Behavior, self-regulation, right? Because like Jessica just mentioned, that was a great example when kiddos aren't given that opportunity to learn and to entertain themselves, or like you said, to engage with the community around you or with their peers. Screen time is a solo activity. They're not developing that self-regulation if all they're doing is being entertained. But we're not here just, make you feel bad, right? What are some alternatives? So, go outside for a walk, have a picnic in the park. I can say as a mom, because first off, Jessica and I both have, our little broods of, children, right? So we're not saying this as, trying to be unrealistic. Okay. But, if I hadn't have had the neighborhood park, Jessica, when my kids were growing up, I'd have lost my mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Just that piece of, going to the park and packing a picnic, getting their sand pills, and they would entertain themselves. And I could actually sit and relax for a little bit. And it talked to their mom. Yeah, it was social opportunity for them and for me.
Yes, and it's an outlet for them to get some energy out.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. These are just some fun little ideas, but have a car wash with their toys. I know putting some baby shampoo in a bucket, and a sponge. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll watch the most random things. They don't even care what it
Nope,
is.
they don't even care.
And it can help you out too, because if they do have like little shovels or tools, or if their bike's dirty, like they love to take ownership of that and,
Yeah.
take care of those things. And plus it keeps them entertained and
Right. Water the yard.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Try turning a chore into something fun.
Yes.
But an inside too, I include this picture of this little one in a fort, because we know going outside is not always an option,
Right,
right?
right.
Hello, it's yucky out
Weather,
today,
yeah.
right? But again, thinking about, what can they do that is not on a screen? And, you think, oh, but I don't have time to just sit there and, play with them. We get that.
Mhm.
Sometimes you do want them to, be self-sufficient for a little
Yeah,
bit, right?
yeah.
Under supervision. But, even playing with puzzles, building a fort out of big chunky wooden blocks,
Yeah.
all those sort of opportunities give them that time to be creative, and they will entertain themselves.
Yeah.
Because they will really learn how to self-regulate and how to entertain and play, and not have to just be sitting there on a screen.
Yeah.
So you'll notice their tolerance builds up, right?
Yes, it does. And if you have some high energy kiddos that their inside activities require a little bit, more energy, some things that you can do inside the house too is set up a mini obstacle course and have them go through it, have them help you put it together. If maybe they're not like a fort builder and want to sit inside, we can help them build something different. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. You can even just like pull chairs from your table and they just got to weave in and out of them. We can do hopscotch on the carpet or the floor with like the blue painter's tape, just different things, or just put X's that they have to hop to. If they need like heavy movement, like having them if you have a laundry basket that the clothes are folded, like, can you pull this as hard as you can into the room for me? I really need your help. Or helping you pull the trash bag out of the trash can, just things that are going to get some of that energy out for you, for our kiddos that are more high energy and need that.
Oh, absolutely. And you're right, because our kids all have different temperaments. They have right? They have different,
Yeah.
and they have different needs.
Yeah.
And so
I'm thinking of my 3 boys, like they're not going to sit in color, but
right?
they like to do more of the physical stuff if we're going to be inside. So we have a lot of the little, I think almost every door has one of the little basketball hoops on it, and just stuff like that everywhere that gives them something to do that's entertaining, but also helps them burn that energy at the same time.
Right. That's a great idea. I know I include that finger paint in the bathtub again.
So fun.
Oh, my kids, they'd put on their bathing suits like on a rainy day, and I would sit next to them and get to read a book, and they, would just go to town. I mean, I would make sure it's, maybe not permanent.
Right.
Okay.
Washable.
Yeah, disclaimer here. Okay, don't send me your tile bill. Okay, but but again, it's just getting creative and giving them the opportunity to play.
Yes.
So the power play, think of, when we talk about what's detrimental about so much screen time, well, think of play as the opposite, okay? It's going to build their imagination and creativity, foster their, cognitive growth and social skills, and again, improve that communication and their physical fitness.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's be real, Jessica, right?
Right.
Again, we're moms, we know, okay? There are times that honestly, we've done it, okay? We've done it. Like, we just need you to watch a movie, okay? But think about screen time like a diet, okay? Oh, I said the D word. Wait, let me rephrase that. Okay, moderation. Save it for when you really need it. If you know that, oh, I've got to get, dinner ready from 5 to 5:30, and I just can't have, them under my feet at that moment, then try and save it for that. But you're thinking moderation. Another thing too, rotate toys. sometimes our kids have so much access to things
Mhm.
that can be overwhelming and overstimulating, and then they're bored by it all.
Yeah, I agree. A
Yeah.
lot of times we think we have to keep buying all
Mhm.
these new things for our kids because they're not playing with what they currently have. And if you just get a couple bins and put, half their toys away in a closet where they don't see them and keep half of them out. And then when you rotate the bins out, it's like,
Yeah, Christmas all
yes,
over
they're like, "Oh my
again,
gosh,
right?
is this my birthday? Like,
Yeah.
where did all these toys come from?" And then, you just keep rotating them out. It really does help keep the novelty of the things and also our kids can get overwhelmed when they're going to, wherever your toys are kept or your play area in your house. And there's so many choices to pick from. It's easier if we just have a couple for them to go through and grab, than standing there like, I don't even know what to do. So then they just walk away.
Right. And mom tips here, it helps keep the clutter down too,
It does.
right?
Yes.
But that really is the what we're trying to express right here too is you don't need a lot of fancy or expensive
Yeah.
things to help your child learn and grow.
Mhm.
Another tip is I always had a go bag,
Yes.
an activity bag for
Mhm.
my kids. It was for only when we were out. So I
Mhm.
kept it in the car. And if we had to go sit at a doctor's appointment, or we were going out to eat at a restaurant,
Mhm.
that was their bag.
Yeah.
We talk about screens. Now, even you go to some restaurants and there are
There's a
screens at
screen
the
for them. I
table.
know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, and again, it was that novelty.
Mhm.
They knew that was the only time they were going to get to play with that. And so it kept them entertained.
Yes, definitely.
So just to recap, so setting limits, being clear with your start and end time. You know what? Honestly, if your kids are already really into screens, you might get some pushback.
Yeah.
Is that not true,
Yeah.
psychologist Jessica?
Yes, you might get some pushback and some resistance, and them, asking for it more often. But really, it just is give it time and they will start engaging in the other things.
I loved your idea about a timer,
Yes.
right? That can be such a useful tool
Mhm.
for kiddos. You set that timer when that 30 minutes is up,
Mhm.
they know. And so it's not so much mom or dad being the bad guy,
Yeah.
because we get to do that enough, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's, oh, we're all done.
Yeah.
The timer went off.
Yeah. And it's okay for our kids to earn like technology
Mhm.
too. So if you want to
Sure.
use it as a first, then like if you're needing them to, we need to, eat our breakfast and brush our teeth and, get dressed for the day. And then maybe you have a few minutes before school. Like if they did all of that and then they get to, play their favorite ABC game for the 5 minutes before you get in the car, that's okay too. Um, it is okay to use it as that first then to get them motivated to do what you need them to do.
Sure. And content. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit, right? Because again, you wouldn't leave the door of your house unlocked, right? And that's another danger with the screen, especially like a personal, a phone, hand your kids a phone. I talk with families all the time that they're so impressed that their 18-month-old can get past the password and get on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, so you really want to think about that.
Yeah.
Think about using those, parental control tools. Think about, is this educational or entertainment? Okay, so again, is this a vegetable
Yeah.
or is this McDonald's? Okay. And so you're thinking about that big picture. Is it age appropriate and support your values? And then mentor, being a good example of it. What amazes me so much too is even when kids are on the screen, you see parents
They
on the
are.
screen.
Yeah.
And then so the poor, kiddo's trying to get attention and the parents are stuck on the screen.
Yeah.
So, being that good example.
Yep, definitely. Okay, so let's go through and talk about let's say, if you do get pushback from that, or if you just have a child that does have behavior or a hard time managing their emotions, we're going to shift from the screen time into, what are some techniques that we can do ourselves as parents? What can help us stay calm, and what can we do help our kiddo cope with how they're feeling and working through some of those big emotions that they're having. Okay, so just some daily tips to try to incorporate into your day that will help your child stay calm. Um, to really just be, I want to say, intentional when thinking about this. So let's say your child is upset or having a meltdown, really before we react, thinking, which I know we only have a few seconds. So that's why I always say parents are superheroes, right? We only have a few seconds to figure out this emergency, what it feels like an emergency to our kiddo, of what are they trying to tell me. I have to think back. Do I think they're tired? Do I think they just need a break from whatever activity we're doing? Are you hungry? Do you just need some time with me? We're flipping through all these ideas in our head and really trying to understand, where is this coming from before we dive in to address, whatever the behavior is that's going on. Another thing that's going to help our kids stay calm is just really being consistent with whatever your day looks like. I know our day can't look the same every single day, and that's okay. But as long as they have some sort of routine, even if it's just, you know, after I eat in the morning, I brush my teeth, and then I brush my hair, I put my clothes on, things like that, or that are even similar. Going to school. Then when I come home, my afternoon is similar as well, where I have playtime, and then it rolls into, maybe snack and, whatever you got to do for the evening for your kiddo, and then wrapping it up with like bath time and a story or something like that at the end of the day. Just having something consistent or similar, where the activities are similar that they're used to, that just reduces their anxiety and the unknown for them, which can be a trigger. Another thing to build into your day is just that connecting with your kid. So even talking to them, no matter how young they are, asking them questions, trying to get information about their day, but even just, smiling at them when you walk by them, or while they're playing, or if they happen to be singing a song and you hear them from another room, joining them, or if they are playing a game, going over or playing with their toys. And it really only just takes a few minutes, like here and there, throughout the day, just making sure that you're going back and reconnecting with your kid. Teaching them their emotions. So we obviously can't teach them their emotions when they're in a big emotion, but talking about them at all times throughout the day. So, oh, I saw you, um, you know, run over and go hug the dog. Are you feeling happy? Or, you any time you see that, oh, they got excited, like labeling that for them. Or, oh, that really made you sad. You were crying before, you were sad. Just really constantly pointing them out to them, so that they can be learning what those emotions are, so that when they are experiencing them, and if they're the ones where we have to help them regulate through, they're at least able to identify and let us know how they're feeling. If you are going to have something new in your life, household, routine, or something that you think might be challenging for your child, really looking at preparing them for that situation ahead of time as much as we can. We know we can't always prepare for things, right? Life happens, and that's okay. That's why that's one of some of the things we can't control, but we want to try to have our kids have a toolbox of coping strategies and things for when things do happen out of the ordinary for us. But as much as we can, helping them prepare for those situations. Giving our kids choices throughout the day is okay. Like letting them know, do you want to go for a walk, or do you want to go kick the ball in the backyard? Like letting them have those choices throughout their day. At school, they get offered those choices like that. So for us to practice those at home, and you're more likely to get the buy-in from your kid if they feel like they have some control or some choice over their day.
So I'm thinking, like, for instance, okay, if maybe getting ready in the morning is a difficult time.
Yes.
So that, right?
Yeah.
Right. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness, yes. So maybe the night before we could offer a couple choices, right?
Yep.
Because we're the adult, we're going to choose those
Yes.
boundaries, right? Not just, what do you want to wear today? Because that's too open-ended, right?
Right.
Our kids are going to go to,
Yes.
school in their bathing suit
Yeah.
or pajamas.
Yes.
But so you offer two outfits and say, what do you want to wear to school tomorrow? And then lay that out.
Yeah.
And to try and help smooth out that morning if that's the time of day that is difficult.
Yep.
Another hot area I know for families is going to the store, right?
Yes.
And that checkout line with
Yes.
all the goodies and right.
It's hard for me to go through the checkout line
Right?
without grabbing something.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
So how could a family, if they know, all right, this we've identified going to a store is just so hard, because what happens is it's so hard that then you avoid it.
Right.
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 And then it just compounds the problem, because then they're never getting a chance to work through it and practice.
Yeah.
So little Johnny's, we know, has a hard time going to the store because he wants everything. He's throwing fits. So mom just wants to give him the toy just to keep him quiet. Or the screen or whatever to avoid the problem. Do you have any tools that how you could maybe prepare knowing that that's going to be a difficult situation?
Yeah. So definitely talking about it before you go to the store. So, there's some times where we just can't get anything. Maybe there is a time where you can get one small thing, but letting them know that ahead of time so they know the expectation going in. If it's a day where they're not getting anything, which is fine, I typically suggest like letting them choose one of their preferred items from home to take with them. So if they have like a preferred toy, stuffed animal, book, lovey, whatever they have that they want to take with them, that's their special thing that gets to ride with them in the cart for that day. I encourage you to let them do that. We don't want to take, like a whole toy box, but letting them know like, oh, did you want to take, teddy bear today, or did you want to take your dinosaur today? And letting them have that. So it keeps them busy while they're in the cart too. I think that for kids too, sometimes they, they like to, can I just want to see it? And
Yes.
sometimes, we're in a hurry and we don't really have time to like stop and touch and grab everything. But like letting them know if you can't do that, letting them know like, oh, well, next time, we come back here, we will have, letting them know like maybe it's not no forever that you're not going to get to go look at the toys today, or that you're going to get to look at something special, but like letting them know like, oh, well, next time we come, we'll have more time. Like we will make it a point to come over, but then making sure that we follow through with them so that they can come over and look through the books, or, I remember avoiding the toy aisles at all costs because they would want to, I just want to look, right? And sometimes we don't always have that time, but I think giving them other items to take, or having that conversation ahead of time. And then some of our kids even need we offer our families too just little pictures to take of what the expectation is at that time, and then we can remind them like, oh, we're sitting in the cart right now, we're not getting out of the cart, because sometimes we have issues even with just safety inside of the store. Or we have pictures of like walking in the parking lot and like we're holding hands. Not all of our kids like to hold hands. So we do have things like that for safety that are available and that we do make and we show those to the kiddos for reminders too. Because when they're upset, they're really not listening to our words. And sometimes we have to fall back on those pictures, which is okay.
And what about if it's chunking it up? And what I mean is, like, for instance, if we, instead of going 0 to 60, like
Right.
expecting, okay, we set that expectation and we front loaded them,
Mhm.
and now, Mary's gonna sit in the cart for an hour while I get shopping done.
Right.
So how
Baby
can
steps.
how can we use that positive reinforcement?
Yeah, definitely. If you have a kiddo that really struggles with that, 100% start small. And it will take probably more shopping trips on your end because, you're not going to right away, like Leann said, you're not going to go do your big Costco shopping day where
Oh.
you're there for hours and it's packed and there's so much stuff. You want to start small where maybe you just go in and you go down 2 aisles and you get a loaf of bread and you go check out and you go home.
And
Yeah.
really celebrate that moment, right?
Huge.
Oh, you did it.
Yes.
Yes.
And acknowledging your child the whole
Mhm.
time they are doing what you want them to be doing. So letting them know, you're amazing. You're sitting in the cart for me. That is being so safe.
Mhm.
Letting them know as they're walking in, like you're holding my hand, like really acknowledging the positive behaviors that they're doing, to let them, because that lets them know that's what you're expecting of them. And also, who doesn't like to hear, a
Right?
little positive feedback, right?
Yes. Yeah. None of us, even adults. I
Yeah.
mean, we don't want to just constantly be, the only time we're talked to is when we're told what we're doing wrong.
Right.
Right? Catch them being good.
Yes.
Yes.
And we will get to that, I think.
Right.
This is just a little visual for you guys about the things that we just went over that will help your kiddo stay calm. It will be a resource that'll be available for you with our
Mhm.
handouts. But I think too, for us as parents, like I know for me, I have to like reflect back and be like, okay, when you're in the thick of a tantrum or you're in a busy schedule, you're, you're like, you can't see through the forest sometimes.
Right.
And so just for me to have these things printed out and just available, whether it's hanging on the side of my fridge or I have it like, stuck up on a bulletin board in my office, um, they're helpful for me to go back and be like, I really didn't do that today. I could be better at doing that tomorrow. Maybe that would help, um, bedtime tomorrow if I, did some of these things. So,
Well, and I really loved what you mentioned before too. It's not just front loading our kids or talking them through things while they're calm, but it's prepping ourselves while we're calm.
yeah.
It's thinking about, okay, we know this is, a hot topic in our area of our life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We know this is going to be tough, or this is a behavior I really want to deal with. And it's thinking through the strategies and what you're going to do to prepare yourself ahead of time.
Yes.
And then you're less likely to,
Yes.
be upset in the moment because you're expecting it and this is, I know what I'm going to do. I've got the tools in my toolbox, and this is how I'm going to address it.
Yep. As much as when the kids have a plan, they're less stressed out. When we have a plan and, this is happening, this is how I'm dealing with it, we're less stressed out and then more calm and available for our kids for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, Jessica and we are so can relate to this as moms and having multiple children and just all that is going on
and trying to
with life.
figure it out every day.
Right? Oh, yes.
I know. If only there was the handbook.
Right?
Right?
Flying the plane while you're building it,
Yes.
right?
Because we know all our kids are different. They all have different temperaments. And we, can have, like for me, I have 3 boys and they all require different parenting. Like it's none of them respond the same. That would be easy, right?
Right. Yes, right. And, and I love that you brought that up because I think I know this is a general sort of toolbox we're talking about, but I know families, even what if you're saying, but my child has a disability, right?
Mhm.
But even if they might have an impairment somehow or a delay, there's still this basic, guidelines, right, that we still want to instill in our children,
Mhm.
because that helps them feel safe, and
Right.
also it just sets those expectations of of what they're capable of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Oh, that was your side. I'm
That's
sorry,
okay. That's
friend.
okay. So as important it is for us to keep ourselves calm, we definitely want to make sure that we have calming strategies for our kiddos to access when they're upset. It is okay for them to feel their emotions. It's okay to be frustrated with us. It's okay for them not to agree with us. It's just, what do we want them to do instead of maybe throwing something or hitting or grabbing. We want to give them alternatives that when you're feeling this way, you can go and do these things. So just some, easy, no, we can go to the next one. Sorry.
Okay.
Calm down things. And it's going to be whatever works for your kid. So you know your kids best. So would taking some deep breaths with them, counting, or do you have the kiddo that really just needs to go for a walk, whether it's inside the house, outside the house? Do we just need to go take a break in a different area? So sometimes switching the environment and letting them know that they have a safe place to go take a break, whether that's their bedroom, or maybe they like have a comfy little spot on your couch with a blanket that they like to curl up in, or just something that gives them time away from the situation to calm down. Some of our kids like to draw, listen to music. Sometimes just giving them their like favorite toy to go sit with, or their favorite stuffed animal, just giving them at least two or three options that calms them down, and offering them when they are escalated, letting them know, like, I see that you're frustrated, or I can tell that you're upset right now, or you seem really sad, and giving them a choice. Do you want to go sit with Teddy, or do you want to go listen to music right now? Letting them know that they have those choices. Because we're not going to be able to do any teaching while they're escalated. We want to give them something to calm them down, so then we can come back in and teach after.
So, Jessica, so what if, let's say, we give little Johnny, he's having a meltdown, okay? And so we're like, okay, here, let's take a breath. We're going to take a break, because we know that, it helps Johnny to just, maybe like you said, go sit on the couch with his favorite toy. But to get from point A to B, Johnny is, really expressing
Yeah.
like, no, I
Yeah.
don't want to,
Yes.
what does a parent do with that?
Yeah.
Because I know I was guilty of this. I would find myself arguing with them,
Yeah.
right? Trying to rationalize it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I said,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Instead of just following through,
Yeah.
less words, right?
Yeah.
But does a parent, are we acknowledging that they're saying no? How does a family respond to that?
Yeah. So I think if you are beyond escalated where they're not able to access, something to calm them down, sometimes depending on the situation, if it's safe, if you can leave the room and honor and give them space at that time to calm down, because at that point we probably both need the calm down, right?
Right.
So if they're not going to an alternative space, then I think that we can, let them work through it, but then still, like, letting them know once they start to come down off that tantrum, that you can still offer them their choices that you would have for them to calm down. Because if we're going here, we're here, then we're probably more likely to go access those. Um, Even if you can't leave the room, you can still, I think, back up and give them a minute, where you, even if you just take some steps back, if you have to be there to
And just ignore the behavior.
and just let them work through it. Sometimes they just have to work through it
Sure.
before they can come down. And that's okay. But just knowing that you have a plan for that, I think is the biggest thing for us, and that your kid knows that you are reacting the same way and being consistent with that with them. I think that, it's okay that if they're not ready to access some of these things, sometimes you just need to take a step back, because they're not hearing at that point what we're offering. We want to try to catch them at some of their beginning signs of these behaviors.
Sure.
So to offer some of these calm down strategies. So if you see them maybe making facial expressions that, like, oh, I know what that means, or saying things, or body movements, or noises, and offering them some of these things at the beginning. But yeah, you're right. If we're in full meltdown mode, we're not hearing. And so we have to let them calm down, and then we will offer at that point. If we go 0 to 100, which is okay, that happens.
Yeah, that's a great point, though, is again trying to prevent that whole, super escalated spot, because we as parents can see that typically, right? That, okay, we're starting to amp up here.
Yes.
Right. And then too, like you said, referencing, that mental checklist. Are they hungry? Are they overwhelmed? What can we do to help make this a little better before we get there?
Yep.
Great point.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Remembering what challenges you. So we all have, certain behaviors that push our buttons as adults, and that's okay. But being aware of that is what's going to be key, because there may be some things your kids do that you're just able to work through calmly, but then there may be some behaviors that your kids have that are just your hot button. So those are the ones that you really want to be aware of, and maybe that is a button that's really pushed for you, but maybe there's another adult in your house, or even an older sibling that's not, where that's just a time where you swap out with the one that it doesn't really bother.
Tag you're it, right?
So, yes.
Tap them in.
Yes, definitely. And then, like we keep saying, remaining calm. And we're going to talk about some keys to help us do that as adults. Recognizing that not everyone has the same buttons, and then making sure that, when your button is being pushed, that we said you already have a plan of what you're going to do, instead of just reacting, because that doesn't go well for anybody when we're just reacting back because we're feeling a type of way.
Right. Well, and like we were talking about with screen time, it's setting that example too. Like, if we can't expect our kiddos to respond appropriately if we're not responding appropriately,
Right.
and setting that example.
Yeah. And trust me, like, I am beyond guilty of this. We all are human, and we all react at times. It is what it is. And it's about like coming down off of that reaction, and how do we go back and address that. So if there might be some repairing that we have to do with our kiddo, if maybe we overreacted, or if there was maybe some behavior we saw in ourselves that we didn't really, want to have, things like that. So I think even if we are reacting, it is all about, once the situation is calm, coming back and reconnecting with your child, and reviewing what happened and
Yeah.
rebuilding from there. We kind of talked about this already, but just, really clearly letting them know what we expect in advance. So, letting them know what we want them to do, and really front loading them and letting them know this is the expectation of this situation, or here's our expectations in the house. You have expectations at the store, expectations at the park, it's all these different expectations. So really just the more we can front load them and give them reminders throughout the day of what those are, really helps them.
And visuals, right?
Yes.
I love how when you go to our campuses here,
Yeah.
you'll see that, are you be kind? Are you
Yeah.
being helpful?
Yeah.
Right? And those expectations are in the hallways
Yes.
to give them that reminder. But so for our littles that they're not, maybe reading yet, right?
Right.
It can still be pictures.
Totally. And
Mhm.
to have those at home, I know that you guys see them up in the preschools and at school too, but they are so helpful at
Mhm.
home. I had my oldest that really, like, with multi-step instructions, like, was not his thing when he was smaller. So I did have to have like pictures up in the bathroom of what his expectations were for being in there, like, with his toothbrush, and like, you're here to, and then wash your face, wash your
Right.
hands, dry your hands, all
Mhm.
of the little steps. And it really was helpful because then I wasn't having to constantly give those verbal reminders of
Yes.
him getting annoyed because I'm verbally reminding him all the time.
Right?
Where it's almost like us with a checklist, right? Like if
Mhm.
we have a to-do list, those are really helpful for our kids too. Even if it's cleaning up, or, how to get ready in the morning, bedtime routine, anything like that, the visuals can be really, really helpful.
Mhm. I love that.
Another thing with the expectations and behavior with our kids is really focusing on what we want them to do. And like Leann said earlier, not always giving them that corrective, negative feedback. They really perform and give you the expectations that you're looking for. And I hate to say perform, but like it's because they eat up the positive feedback. They really love it. So we can still say, it's not, a horrible thing that we tell our kids, no, that's fine. But really we want to make sure that we are telling them what we want them to do. So, if they are maybe running somewhere, instead of stop, don't run, reminding them, remember, we're in the parking lot, we need to walk next to mommy and hold my hand, and then acknowledging them for doing that. So we want to really focus on what they should be doing, um, instead of really the negative behavior that we don't want to see them do. It really does make a big, huge difference. And that's a hard shift because it's easier for, if you really think about, like, we're reacting, and I have to like really think of, like, before I go and say, like, don't hit your brother, like, what am I expecting? Keep your hands to yourself, like making that flip, so then they hear that and then the hands go down, versus by the time I get the hit the brother out, it's already,
Right.
happened. So
Well, and you know what, honestly, this works with our spouses too, right? Like, we get to this
Yeah.
point where we can only nag so many times
Right.
that, put your dishes away, or,
Yes.
but what would it look like if, we really explained,
Yeah.
it just drives me insane when I come home and there are dishes everywhere.
Yeah.
I would really appreciate it.
Yeah.
If you would put those in there, and then the minute you see any of that progress, wow, you really praise them.
Yeah, definitely.
It just sort of changes the whole tone
Yeah.
of, instead of it being so negative and again, after the fact reacting, like
Yeah.
you said.
Yeah.
How can we target the things that we don't want to happen and focus on what is positive.
Definitely. Yes. And so we also have a good handout that goes along with this where it just gives you like different scenarios and then what we can say instead of the negative. So on here it does talk about like, oh, instead of saying don't throw your toys, we want to let them know like toys stay, on the table or toys stay on the ground, like letting them know what we want them to do at the toys instead of throwing them. Um, Another one that's on here that's helpful is climbing. So instead of stop climbing, don't climbing, keep your feet on the floor or asking them like, oh, like if they're on the counter, did you need something? Your feet are on the floor, but remember, ask for help. So this is just a really good tool that, helps us to say what we want to see, and then it has really good examples of then following up with that positive acknowledgement when they do what we say. So if they're running and we remind them, oh, use your walking feet, and they start walking, oh my goodness, what an opportunity for
Yes.
you are walking, you are being so safe, like really flooding them with that. To then they know like, oh, this is what she was expecting of me because I'm getting this positive feedback.
Right.
It really is a game changer.
And is it important to Jessica to make sure that they understand what the consequences are as well? Because some things, right, are just non-negotiable,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so how does a family make sure that, their kiddo, is it that reminder in the, beforehand or during? Like, let's say let's go back to the grocery store again, right? And, we said we're not going to get a toy and, this is what we expect you to do. But then Johnny still, has a complete meltdown 10 minutes in. What would be a consequence? Like, would that a family could roll
I
out?
think really is being consistent and sticking with that. So if the plan and the expectation going is that you're not getting something, or they're wanting to get out of the cart and throwing a fit, or they don't, whatever it is that where the tantrum is coming from, is that we're following through with that. So we're not really not giving in and buying something or giving them something. And even if we have to cut the trip shorter, but not even being conscious of that where you're not cutting it sometimes right away, like, okay, maybe even that's where the timing comes in, or the timer, like even if it's 10 seconds, like you're going to sit in the cart for 10 seconds without standing, and you sit there with them and 10, 9, 8, 7, and go through, and then boom, okay, we're done. Like we followed through with something where that they were listening to what we had to say, and that they were not getting reinforced by us giving in.
Because you're right, some kiddos will start to use that. They know, oh, if I throw a fit, then we're going to get to leave. And so they'll start to use that as an escape tactic, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think even though they may be having a big moment, really it's you letting them know like, oh, we're going to be here for, like I said, even if it's just 5 seconds, 10 seconds longer, then it's your terms that you're leaving on, and not like, oh, you acted like this, now we're leaving. It's having them really respond to that command that you're giving them.
You know what?
And following through for sure.
Yeah, follow through. That's hard.
It's so
oh
hard.
my goodness.
It's so hard.
Especially when it was something we were looking forward to.
I know. And when you have specific things that you are like needing to get, and that's okay too. Like, letting them know, like, I'm getting this one thing, and then we're leaving and following through with that. It's hard.
Right. Yes, we're not throwing this out there lightly. We know it's
Yeah.
it's difficult. But I think too, when you talk about the follow through, um, it's making sure ahead of time, like you talked about planning, it's easy in the moment when we're upset to throw out a consequence
Mhm.
that we really aren't going to be able to live up to, right?
Right. Like you're not gonna maybe get to watch TV for the whole rest of the week. Like
Right?
telling your
Yeah.
5-year-old that. And then how are we going to be able to follow through with that as parents? Like,
Right.
probably not.
Yes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's where, again, going back to your great
Mhm.
tips of having a plan ahead of time
Mhm.
and setting those expectations.
Right. And
Right.
if maybe one of your things was they were going to get to play with, a special toy when they got home from the store, or
Mhm.
they were going to get to play, their favorite game on the
Mhm.
tablet or whatever, making sure that when they get home that, like, sorry, like, this was the
Mhm.
activity we were going to do, but, you know, reminding them of what happened and why they're not having access to that at
Mhm.
that time. And that, we can
But
try again.
we can try again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. We all
Yeah.
need that. We can try again.
Yeah. Yep. It's always a new day.
Yes.
You had mentioned this earlier and it's so important of when our kiddos, are just doing their normal thing
Mhm.
and acknowledging them for that and catching them doing what we want them to do, without us telling them, or even if it's just spontaneous, like
Mhm.
maybe they're, you know, it could be the
Yeah.
smallest thing.
Playing nicely with
Yes,
sister,
yes,
right?
yes, and it might
Yeah.
be something that you've
Mm.
seen them do 100 times, but just letting them know, like, "I love the way that you guys are playing so nicely
Mhm.
together." You're being gentle and just letting them know. Or if they, you know, got a napkin for something and they actually put it in the trash
Yeah.
instead of just dropping it in the middle of the floor, or they
Uh-huh.
finished a snack and their wrapper made it in the trash can. That's a huge thing in my house. If you guys have tips for me on how wrappers can go in trash cans, send them my way. Because they just magically get dropped
Yep.
everywhere.
In the couch cushions.
Yes, so I
Yes.
feel like that's, like, one thing I'm like, "Oh, you put that bag in the trash, like, thank you, that's so helpful, I'm so happy, like, I'm not gonna find it later," so things like that, or if maybe they fight you putting on their shoes every morning, and that one morning you look over and they're putting them on, it's a big celebration, so we really wanna catch them, um, being good, and we want to give them more of that feedback. Like, all the research says the more times we're telling them and acknowledging what they're supposed to be doing versus the no, you shouldn't be doing that, stop doing that, all of that, they are going to engage in those behaviors more than us just telling them what they're not supposed to do.
And is it important to be specific, or is it more just like, "Oh, good job?"
It is very important to be specific. I can't talk anymore. We must be getting close to 10:30. Yep. Oh. Specific, because a lot of times in passing, if you're saying good job or you're being awesome, they're really, for what?
Mhm.
Because they could be doing a couple things in that moment and, like, oh, is she telling me good job because I'm
Mhm.
sitting nicely? Is she telling me a good job because I'm using kind words?
Right.
Like, what is it that, she's happy for me in this moment? And
And it's
so,
kind of vague too,
yes,
right?
yeah,
If I just like, "Oh, good job."
right,
Right?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
They might start to kind of tune that out. It doesn't have as much weight and value
right.
as
It's not as much of a teaching moment.
mhm. Okay, we are close. Here, yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
Um,
I did want to end, if we
you go.
can, with this.
Yes, okay.
Because this is for us as parents,
Mhm.
of how to calm ourselves down, because, or stay calm in general. It is important for, you guys to really keep yourselves in mind, and self-care, and making sure that, you're processing and working through some of the situations, because, um you know you to take care of yourself first. It's like the oxygen mask in the airplane,
Mhm.
which I still think would be really hard to do. But
Agreed.
you do, if you're not taking care of yourself, and if you're not reflecting and really being intentional for yourself, then we're not the best for our kids at
Mhm.
that moment. So I know that if I am super stressed out or super upset about a situation, I'm not going to be my best
Mhm.
self. So really thinking about these things, like in the situation or after, maybe you just work through a big behavior with your kid and you were calm during the whole situation,
Mhm.
but you reflecting on that, giving yourself a moment and some
Mhm.
grace, after or even in the moment with your kiddo, to help calm yourself down afterwards.
Mhm.
Think about what is calming for you. Is deep breathing calming for you? Is listening to music calming for you? Is reaching out to a friend and just
Mhm.
shooting a text message if you don't have time to do a conversation, or what is something that helps you, calm down. I know for me, I don't know if it's healthy, but humor is good for me. So even if it's just like, you know you send a friend a funny meme and it makes you laugh and it just
Mhm.
like redirects you and helps you calm down. And then two, really reflecting on the situation. Like, how did you feel in that moment? How do you think your kid felt in that moment? And then what maybe could we have done differently, or could I have done something more on the front end to help prevent the big behavior? Um, and then how am I feeling? Like, am I calm enough now that I can go back in and reconnect with my kiddo now that the behavior is over? And when you do feel like you are in that good space, and it's not going to be a lot of times, 1 minute after. Like sometimes
Mhm.
you need time, and that's okay, because I'm sure your kiddo needs time too. But when you do go in and reconnect with your kiddo, either talking about the situation, if they're able to do that, talk about what you felt could have gone differently, giving them
Mhm.
other options for what could have happened during that time. um, we may just be at that time redirecting to a new activity because we're moving on. So like, what's next? Like, let's move on together, and just reconnecting with your kids so they know that we love them no matter
Mhm.
what, and that we're always here for them, but being intentional about making that reconnection back with them. And it does just help us reduce our stress levels too. So make sure you're taking care of yourselves too.
Yes, I love that point. Because I mean, yes, a trip to Tahiti and laying on a beach would be wonderful, right?
Yes.
But just finding that, 5 minutes of joy,
Mhm.
you know, how whatever that is,
Yeah.
just for a moment, and again, acknowledging that we know you're busy moms and
Mhm.
dads,
Yes.
and it's hard to find that,
Yeah.
um, but it does make a difference to
Yeah.
just reset,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Well, this has been such good information. I know we went a little bit over, but I see
Sorry.
we I know we like to talk. But I see we've got a couple questions. Here's one. If my child gets upset and storms to their room, should we go follow them or wait for them to calm down and come back? Great
Yeah,
question.
it is a good question. I think when we're thinking about where they're at in their escalation, to me, this sounds like they're up here really
Mhm.
high and probably not listening to us as we follow them anyways. Um, I think that, if we are wanting them to calm down, I would say faster. This situation, I don't know because I'm not there, but it sounds like
Mhm.
they are expressing to you that they do need that time away to calm
Mhm.
down and then come back. And maybe if that is something that um, I'm maybe is like a trigger for you, because I know for me, I know my own kids will do that too, and I'm like, no, he did not just go slam that
You
door,
did
right?
not, right?
But then also recognizing that at that point they need a moment and I need a moment, and then we talk about that. Like, letting them know to communicate, like, I need to go to my room instead of storming away and slamming the door. Like, maybe that's our plan. When you're starting to feel this type of way, then you just have to, we want to keep it respectful too,
Right.
right? We don't want it to be
Yes.
a storm away and, slam, but like, just tell me, like, if you are getting to that point, then I will let my kid know, like, I will honor that for you if you need to go
Sure.
to your room. But I would, and yes, I would say let them calm down and come out, and then you can process what happened, because they're too escalated to hear us at that point anyways. And so it's
Mhm.
not like we've lost that battle, because we're going to come back and reconnect and
Mhm.
talk about what we were talking about before they stormed off.
Mhm.
We always want to go back to that, right? Like, what happened when you got that mad? Um, because we don't just want to let it go. We want to make sure that we are having those conversations, and then let them know what we would expect them to do in those situations, instead.
That's great advice. Okay. Well, I think that's it, right? Did
Yes.
we did we finish that? And so to wrap up, all of these resources will be in a drive. In fact, right now I will go ahead and post it in the chat. Let's see here, so that you have access to it until I send out the email. But in the meantime, like I said, you're going to get a certificate of attendance. You're going to get the link to the recording. It's not letting me copy it. Here we go. And so don't feel like you have to memorize all this. Jessica and I put lots of great resources available for you. Okay. And with that, do you have anything to add, Jessica?
I don't think so. Don't hesitate to reach out. You can put, I think, my email in the chat if you want to as well. I know I talked a lot about like visuals and things for home. That's something that I'm happy to email um, out if you guys, those are things that you guys would like to have. Um, or any of the other resources, anything that I have that I can send to you electronically, I'm happy to do.
Oh, that is wonderful. Thank you. I just realized I put the wrong link in the drive. That's me trying to work without my glasses on, kids. Sorry. But okay, I'm gonna put Jessica's email in here. And again, don't worry about trying to copy this down, fiercely while you're multitasking. I'll include all of this in your email as well. Is that right? Again, I spelled that wrong. I have It's okay. We're just gonna wrap up. Just look for the email, okay? It'll be coming to you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Jessica. We really appreciate your
All right,
time.
no problem.
All right. Bye-bye.